It's time to find out which 40k army are the ultimate Egyptians in space. Welcome to the Start Collecting Deathmatch. You're watching Midwinter Minis. My name's Guy, and in this battle report series, we're pitting 16 Warhammer 40k factions against each other to see which army fares best in small, competitive games. So far, we've seen Orcs and Khorne Demons, Eldar and Chaos Marines, Nurgle Demons and Tyranids, Drakari and Genestealer Cult, with each fight leaving scars on the custom-built arena. Now it's time for two titans of the tournament to face off, the undying legions of the Necrons going head-to-head with the psychic dominance of the Thousand Suns. With two of the highest point value armies in the whole tournament and both using 9th edition codices, this should be an explosive, high-stakes match. Let's do a quick point-by-point scenario recap, and then we'll introduce the armies. Each of the 16 armies in the tournament will only use their most recent Start Collecting box, using only upgrades you can find in those boxes. All armies, no matter the points or power level, will be limited to 3 command points at the start of the game. The arena is combat patrol sized, objective scoring zones and deployment zones are marked out with white lines, and symmetrical. The Zone Mortalis walls are heavy cover, they block line of sight, and they can be scaled, affording climbers a +1 save bonus. The games last 4 turns. The battlefield has 3 scoring zones, each worth 5 victory points if held uncontested in the command phase, starting from turn 2. And for this tournament, we're ignoring objective secured rules to make things a little bit more fast and furious. Each player can select one secondary objective, basically for tiebreaker purposes, and if the scores are still tied at the end of turn 4, the battle will go on for one more round. Now it's important to note that so long as they are ahead on points at the end of turn 4, armies can still be victorious even if they've been completely destroyed in a previous round. That should give more tactical, less offensive armies a fair crack at the whip. Nice and simple. Right then, let's check out the armies. So for my Necron army, I am bringing a patrol detachment with 2 HQs, 2 troop choices, a heavy support, and a fast attack. Pretty versatile, this little Start Collecting box. They are going to be the Mefrit Dynasty, which gives me +3 range to all my ranged weapons apart from pistols, and +1 AP at half range. Very tasty. So let's look at the 2 HQ units. First off, my Overlord, which is also my Warlord, I've given Immortal Pride as a Warlord trait, and that basically gives me a 5+ invulnerable save against mortal wounds, which I think is going to be quite useful in this fight. I've given him the relic Veil of Darkness. If you've watched any of my Necron battle reports before, you'll know exactly what that does. Basically, I can vanish along with a unit that's next to me, reappear somewhere on the board 9 inches away from the enemy, and do what needs to be done. It's armed with a Resurrection Orb and a Void Scythe. His little buddy next to him is simply a Lord, the spare model you get if you build the Annihilation Barge instead of the Catacomb Command Barge. He doesn't get any relics or Warlord traits, but he does have a Staff of Light. In my troop slots, I've got a squad of 12 Necron warriors armed with Gauss Flayers. Obviously, the Start Collecting box came out before the new Indomitus style Necron, so they can't be armed with Gauss Reapers. I also have a squad of 5 Immortals armed with Tesla Carbines. In the fast attack slot, I have the 3 Canoptech Scarab Swarms that come with the Necrons. And finally, in my heavy support slot, I have the Annihilation Barge, armed with a Gauss Cannon and twin Tesla Destructor. Can't wait to see what this does. So maybe a contentious decision, but for this game I'm going to be ignoring command protocols. I don't particularly like the way those rules work, they just add loads of bookkeeping, and they're not very fun to play. So that's the Necrons, but what about their opponents? Playing against me in today's matchup will be my friend Thomas, who's brought along his beautifully painted Thousand Suns.
Hi, I'm Thomas and I'll be controlling the Thousand Suns. So today I'm bringing Ahriman himself, the Arch Sorcerer of Tzeentch. He is leading 10 Rubric Marines armed with Inferno Combi Bolters. So the Aspiring Sorcerer has the Warp Flame Pistol, as you can see, and I have a Soul Reaper Cannon in his squad. And then I have 10 Zangors. Though some of my Zangors look like they're armed with pistols, they're not. They're actually armed with Zangor blades. Rule of cool. Pistol looks cool. Now I haven't taken a cult for 2 reasons. Ahriman is a special character, so he can't benefit from cult, and he has a fixed Warlord trait. He knows 3 powers. He's got Tzeentch's Firestorm, Doombolt, and Presage. So the Aspiring Sorcerer, I've paid 10 points to upgrade him to know an additional power. He knows Temporal Surge and Glamour of Tzeentch for that nice sweet -1 to hit. Also, I have paid 10 points to upgrade to an icon. This gives me an extra Cabal point. So I have 5 Cabal points to use in this game that's going to cause the Necrons no end of problems. I have 5 Cabal points in this list. In the Psychic phase, they must be spent and they can't be carried over. They're all very flexible and they're a great addition to the army.
Both of these armies are Battle-Forged Patrol Detachments, which means they will be starting the game with 3 command points and generating an additional command point in each command phase. For my secondary objective, I have chosen Purge the Vermin, which is from the Necron Codex, and basically that lets me score 2 victory points at the end of each of my turns for each table quarter that doesn't have any enemy units wholly within it. So if I can control the board, I should be able to rack up quite a few points.
For my secondary, I've taken Warp Ritual, which is really, really good against Necrons because he has no way of denying me. For this, I have to be within 6 inches of the centre of the board and do a psychic action of a warp charge of 3. At the end of the battle, I score 3 points if the ritual tally is 1. If the ritual tally is 2, it's 7 points, and for 3 tally, it gives me 12 points.
For deployment, we rolled off. Thomas won and he chose his side and made me start deploying first. Long story short, at the far end of the board I've got my Immortals backed up by my Overlord. The closer side I've got the Warriors backed up by their Lord. I have my Annihilation Barge right at the back, holding my home objective. And just to be slightly annoying, I've got my Scarabs right on the starting line, ready to start flying up in his face.
Okay, for me, I want to push forward in the centre of the board. A bit of a risky move, but I feel I have the durability to tank quite a lot of his firepower.
So rolling off to see who goes first. Ooh, try again. Oh, that's going to be one of those games. Yes! Necron's turn 1. At the start of Necron's turn 1 in my command phase, I go from 3 command points to 4. Also with my Overlord, I'm going to choose My Will Be Done to be enacted on the Necron Immortals that are right next to him. That'll give them +1 to their to-hit rolls. In the movement phase, I'm going to advance my Scarabs up the board as far as I can. Nice, that's a 4, so 14 inches. I'm going to keep my Annihilation Barge right at the back there, its main weapon is still in range. I'm going to hop these Necron Warriors up on top of these walls, that'll give me a +1 to my save, and I'm still within range to target those naughty rubrics. And then I'm going to use Veil of Darkness to whoosh my Immortals and my Overlord and plonk them down directly in front of those rubrics. So that's my movement phase done. No psychic phase for me. It probably goes without saying, but everything I've got here is going to be targeting those rubric marines in the shooting phase. Let's choose the boring stuff first. I'm going to use the Necron Warriors that have a line of sight. So that's 9 Necron Warriors hitting on 3s. And that's 5 hits. Strength 4 against Toughness 4, wounding on 4s. And that's just 1. Great.
Because of my All is Dust rule, I will get a 3+ save against this because it adds 1 to the saving throw.
Okay, well, that really was quite boring. Now let's try the Immortals. Now I'm going to use a command point to enact a stratagem. Talent for Annihilation, and basically that means that any wound rolls of 6 cause a mortal wound in addition, up to 3 maximum. Okay, these are Assault 2, so that's 10 shots from these 5 models, and 6s will score 2 additional attacks. Alright, pretty decent roll there, that means 13 attacks hit their mark. Strength 5 against Toughness 4. Pretty nice, that is 8 attacks that cause wounds. Those 3 6s cause an additional mortal wound.
Ouch, that's 3 mortal wounds I didn't want to take, and I have no way of negating them.
And also, because at Mefrit Dynasty, these are going to be -1 AP because I'm in half range.
So that's 8 saves I've got to make. This could be extremely painful, but luckily I have All this Dust still, so it will still give me a 3+ save. So I only failed 2, which means in total I've lost 2 and 1 is on a wound due to the 3 mortal wounds.
My Overlord doesn't have any ranged weapons, and my Lord is tactically hiding behind those walls so he can't draw line of sight. That leaves only the twin Tesla Destructor. That's heavy 10, hitting on 3s. I mean, that wasn't that great, could have been better, but those 2 6s mean I get 4 additional hits, so that's 9 shots making their mark. And this is strength 7 against toughness 4, so I'm going to be wounding on 3s. Oh no, just 4, that's terrible.
So I have 4 saves to make. Luckily, because All this Dust again saved me here, it gives me a 2+ save because it will take you down to a 2+ armor. So this is the end of Guy's shooting phase, and gonna use your command reroll on that 1 because he's got nothing else to shoot me, and I can keep a rubric alive that way. Yes, command point well spent.
Oh well, that's the biggest weapon I have, doing no wounds at all. How fantastic. That's my shooting phase over and done with. Now, technically it's onto the charge phase, but to be honest, my Immortals aren't really cut out for that kind of thing, and while the Overlord does have a pretty mean close combat weapon, I don't favour his chances against all of the Thousand Suns, so I'm gonna pass.
So I would normally have to take a morale here for these rubrics, but because they're fearless, because of their new rules, I don't need to. So I can stand there and walk through fire.
That's my turn done.
So my command phase, I actually spent a command point in the previous turn, so I'm up to 3. In my movement phase, I really want to take the centre of the board and try and keep control of it. I have to be careful. There's still 12 warriors over to the left, and I will be entering their AP2 range, which is quite dangerous for me, and bring my Zangors to the backfield objective. So I rolled for an advance on the Zangors. Got a 1, but that gets me some into the objective. That means I'm holding more than Guy. So into my psychic phase to let the mind bullets fly. We're going to start off with Ahriman.
Just for context, Ahriman is not just one of the best psychers in this tournament. He's actually one of the best psychers in the whole Warhammer 40,000 game. So I'm kind of dreading this psychic phase.
I'm starting off with Doombolt. It's the closest visible model, takes 3 mortal wounds. It's very good power, one of the best in the book. Because I'm +1 to cast, it does actually go off on a 9. So it's going to be 3 mortal wounds on the Immortals for Guy. I'm going to spend 4 of my 5 Cabal points on Malevolent Charge, and that's going to add an additional D3 mortal wounds to the damage. So that's a total of 6 mortal wounds.
And I've only got 5 Immortals, and they only have 1 wound each, so... oh dear, I can see the way this is going. And because they lost those wounds in the psychic phase, I can't use reanimation protocols to try and bring them back. So they are just dead. And that's your psychic phase over, right? You can't cast anymore.
Unfortunately, that's my first power of many.
Fantastic.
So for my next power, I'm going to cast Presage. This is a warp charge value of 7, basically +1 to hit of your attacks roll, so it also works in combat and shooting. Ahriman is going to cast it onto the Rubric Marines. Unfortunately, that's a fail, but with Ahriman's inbuilt ability, he re-rolls all psychic tests. So that's a pass on a 6, because the additional +1 from being Thousand Suns. So for my third and final power of Ahriman, I'm going to do Tzeentch's Firestorm. There's a warp charge of 6. So that goes off on a 6 with +1 to cast, goes off on a 7. Now I'm going to attempt to re-roll it because Ahriman can re-roll all psychic tests. I'm after that big cast. Goes off on a 7 again. So there's going to be 9 dice, 6s or more wounds. Tzeentch's betrayed me, no mortal wounds.
That's like the biggest sigh of relief I've ever had in my life.
Going to the Aspiring Sorcerer in the Rubric Marine squad, I'm going to cast Glamour of Tzeentch, which is -1 to hit. So that goes off on a 6, so now my Rubric Marines are -1 to hit till next psychic phase. I can spend an additional command point to cast an additional power, but I'm saving my command points. So over to my shooting phase, I'm going to use Infernal Fusillade, which is 1 command point. That's going to give an additional shot to each bolt gun in the Rubric Marine squad. So I'm going to split fire the Rubric Marines. The Warp Flame Pistol is 12-inch range, is going to go into the Scarabs. The bolt guns and the Soul Reaper Cannon are going into the Warriors. I have 18 shots from the squad.
So that's 8 saves I need to make at -1 AP. I'm remembering getting +1 because I'm on this cover, but that's -2 coming from the weapons.
The Soul Reaper Cannon, nice bit of shooting there. So that's 4 wounds at AP3. He wouldn't normally get a save here, but because he's in cover, he's going to get 6 up save.
So all in all, after that shooting from the Rubric Marines, that is 12 failed saves. And I only have 12 models in the squad, so that means they are all dead. And I can't even use reanimation protocols because they are all dead. And I can't use the Resurrection Orb because they are all dead.
Everybody's dead, Dave.
Okay, so the Warp Flame Pistol, D6 shots. 3 shots. No wounds there, you can't win them all. The last bit of shooting, Ahriman's going to shoot his pistol into the Lord. Nothing from that pistol. Onto the charge phase. The Rubric Marines are going to charge the Scarabs. So I need a 5 for this. Gets it on a 6. So Ahriman is going to attempt to charge on the Overlord. Needs a 7 to charge. Gets it on a 10. So I'm going to start the fight phase with Ahriman first, because I don't want Guy interrupting with that Overlord. He gets 5 attacks and 1 for the Disc of Tzeentch. So I'm going to spend a command point to re-roll that 1. Okay, so that's 3 wounds from the staff and none from the disc. So it's 3 saves at -1, damage free.
The Overlord has a 4+ invulnerable save. I'm going to use a command point to reroll one of those fails. Oh yes. So that is 1 failed save.
3 damage. Tzeentch has betrayed me.
That means he's down to 2 wounds though, pretty nasty. So now before the rubrics get to fight, I'm going to use my final 2 command points, maybe ridiculously, to interrupt combat and fight with my Scarabs. Let's hope they kill at least 1 more Rubric Marine. The Scarabs have 4 attacks each, so that's 12 attacks, but because he cast those naughty psychic abilities, he's -1 to hit, so I'm only going to be hitting on 5s. Okay, so that is 4 hits, and now just strength 3 against toughness 4, so wounding on 5s. Just 1 wound. That was totally worth 2 command points.
That's a 2-up save for me.
Yes! Are you going to command point that?
No, I'm going to leave him to die.
Small victories.
Okay, so I've piled in and I've moved closer towards Ahriman because I need to protect him from being shot by any ranged attacks if the Overlord decides to pull back. So 12 attacks from the rubrics, and they have still got presage on them, so I'm still +1 to hit, and Araman is within 6 inches, so I'm hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s. 12 hits, wounded on 3s. So it's a total of 5 wounds. So now I've got to attack with the Force Stave from the Sorcerer. So this is wounded on 2s.
So the Force Stave has a -1 AP, and my poor old Canoptech Scarab Swarms only have a 6-up save, so they don't even get a save and it's straight on to damage. So that is 1 swarm totally dead, and 1 down to 3 wounds. And now those 12 regular saves, no AP. Devastated, but my Overlord does get to fight back now, so maybe Araman will be mine.
I'm going to consolidate 3 inches towards the centre to take control of the centre of the board.
So I've got 4 attacks with the Overlord, and with my Void Scythe, I'm going to be hitting on 3s rather than 2s because it subtracts 1 from the hit rolls. And that's fine, all of them hit, and now I am strength 10 because it's strength 5 times 2 with the Void Scythe, so I'm going to be wounding on 2s. Excellent, all 4 wounds go through. And with a -4 AP, Araman's going to be relying on his invulnerable save.
So I'm going to activate my Otherworldly Prescience Warlord trait to give Araman a 3+ invulnerable save till the end of the turn. Ouch, very painful. I have a command point available to spend. Even if I command point one of these, Araman would still be dead because it's flat 3 damage and he's only got 6 wounds. Ouch.
Okay, but a light at the end of the tunnel there. All is not lost. As it's my turn next, I don't really want to consolidate the Overlord into the Rubric Marines because at least next turn I'll hopefully get a charge off and go first.
So the end of my turn, I don't have to perform a morale because they're fearless. Very sad about losing Araman. Dice betrayed me there.
In that case, it's the start of Necron's turn 2. Because of Living Metal, the Overlord goes up from 2 wounds to 3, and in the command phase, I regain a single command point, bringing me to 1. Woohoo. Super annoyingly, in the command phase, I could have selected the Lord's Will with my Lord on the Annihilation Barge, which would have let me reroll 1s, and he's just over 9 inches away. And also, I'm holding the back objective, so I'm going to be scoring 5 victory points. Alright. In the movement phase, I'm going to move the Lord out from behind his tactical cover so that I can shoot and maybe even charge at the Rubric Marines. I'm going to edge my Overlord slightly closer. I'm going to move my barge forward so he's still holding that objective, but he's within half range of all of his weapons, so I'll get +1 AP to all of my attacks. Shooting phase, again, I'm targeting everything I have at the Rubric Marines. Let's start with the Staff of Light from the Lord. So the Staff of Light is Assault 3 and it's within its half range, so it's going to be making 3 attacks, hitting on 4s because they are still affected by Glamour of Tzeentch. Nice, all 3 hits. Now time to wound, wounding on 3s. I failed one, but to be honest, this weapon's pretty good. I've got a good feeling about this. I'm going to use my single command point to re-roll that miss, and it still missed. Oh well, every single time.
So I've got 2 saves to make, but because of all this dust, it gives me a 4+ save from the AP3. Both passed.
I can't even blame the dice because they're mine. Okay, time for the barge, firing all of its weapons. So the Twin Tesla Destructor is heavy 10, hitting on 4s. Wow, 4 hits and no 6s. That's fantastic. Wounding on 3s at least. And that's 3 wounds. I am at half range, so that's -1 AP, which will counter the All This Dust rule, so the rubrics are going to be making a 3+ save.
So 1 rubric takes a wound.
And now let's fire the Gauss Cannon, which is heavy 3. Okay, 2 hit, that's not bad. Now wounding on 3s. Nothing at all. Well, that's the very amazingly interesting shooting phase over and done with. Time for the charge phase. I am going to choose to charge, and I'm going to charge not just with my Overlord, but also with my Lord, who is 9 inches away. Thomas, would you like to Overwatch?
So guys put me in an awkward situation here. So I choose not to Overwatch against the Lord because it's quite a long charge, but I really want Overwatch against the Overlord because he's only got 3 wounds left, so I could possibly kill him. But I'm not going to Overwatch here, and I'm going to see what happens with the charge roll.
Nah, I rolled a 6, and I'm so used to playing Orcs, I was ready to re-roll that whole thing, but nope. That failed. Now I'm going to charge with my Overlord, and I think somebody's going to Overwatch.
I've been saving the CP for this, so it's going to be D6 shots from the Warp Flame pistol, and 2 shots each from the bolters, and 5 from Soul Reaper cannons. 5 shots with the Warp Flame pistol, and 3 wounds.
Alright, that means I'm going to be using my 4-up invulnerable save. So now I've got 1 wound to survive against all of the other shots. That'll be fine, right?
10 shots from the Inferno bolt gun, only unfortunately 1 hit, and no wound, but counting on the Soul Reaper. That's a wound, AP3 from the Soul Reaper cannon.
It's another 4+ invulnerable coming up. Good job, I've got a command point left over. No, I haven't. That Overlord, he did.
So I'm super happy about that. If he would have got in, he would have caused me a major problem.
And that's an incredibly successful charge phase over, and I think I'm going to actually pass on the fight phase, so straight onto the morale phase, nothing needs to be done, and now it's the Thousand Suns turn again. One saving grace though is at the end of my turn, I get to look at my secondary objective, and because none of the Thousand Suns units are wholly within any quarter of the board, I score 2 victory points for each unoccupied quarter. So that means I score 8 victory points. Pretty decent.
Thousand Suns turn 2, so I gain a command point, and my rubrics are in a good position, so I get 10 victory points for being on the center objective and the objective where the Zangors are on. Thousand Suns movement phase. I want to be in the table courts to stop Guy scoring on the secondaries. He's got a very good secondary. So I'm going to shuffle the rubrics into the left-hand corner, and the Zangors are going to go in the bottom right. Okay, psychic phase. Unfortunately, as I don't have Ahriman to give me 3 Kabbalistic ritual points, I only have 2. Unfortunately, they're no use to me now. I'm going to cast Glamour of Zeech on the squad for the -1 to hit. After that, I'm going to spend my one and only command point on the Great Sorcerer stratagem to let me do an additional power that I must know. So we're going to go for the Smite. So that goes off on an 8. It's going to be D3 mortals. Just the 1.
So that's the Lord down to 3 wounds.
Okay, so Thousand Suns shooting phase. Unfortunately, with the loss of Ahriman, I have no reroll 1s and I have no presage. So I'm only hitting on 3s, but still enough to get the job done, I think. So the Rubric Marine squad is going to fire into the Lord with everything. So it's going to be 10 bolter shots, Inferno bolters, 5 Soul Reapers, and D6 Warp Flamers.
That's the Warp Flame pistol there, causing 2 wounds, and I made 2 saves. Nice. Inferno bolters coming in, and they cause 2 wounds, but I managed to save one, even though they're -2 AP. Now it's the Soul Reaper. This has got huge AP, so let's hope he fails. Nope, there's some hits going through, and some wounds. We're only going to get a 6+ against this. Well, 3s ain't going to save anything, and he's only got 2 wounds left after those bolters, so that Lord is dead.
I'm pleased with that shooting, so into the charge phase, we're going to charge the barge.
Well, a 4 would get him in, but he rolled an 8, so he is very in.
And we're going to pile in. I'm going to pile in closer towards his objective and steal that objective from him. So I get 12 attacks, and I get 3 for the Force Stave for the Aspiring Sorcerer.
Loads of attacks coming in here, all hitting on 3s, and now wounding on 4s with the red dice and 5s with the purple. Oh, lucky me, just 2 3-up saves needed and no AP. No problem. Okay, well, watch out, because the Annihilation Barge is going to start punching. 3 attacks, hitting on 6s. Well, that was pretty uneventful.
It's the end of Thousand Suns' turn. I wanted to try and lock him there and stop him scoring any primary this turn. Result for me.
The start of Necron turn 3, to be honest, I'm just as surprised as you are. I don't score any victory points, but I do regain 1 command point. In the movement phase, I could get out of this if I wanted to, because the Annihilation Barge has the hover rule, but to be honest, the Rubric Marines are not very good in close combat, so I'm happy sticking around, and I get to shoot at point blank range because I'm a vehicle. So straight on to the shooting phase, and I'm going to fire everything I have at the Rubric Marines, hopefully a little bit more effective than last time. Let's start with a Twin Tesla Destructor. So I'm only going to be hitting on 4s here because of the Psychic Shenanigans, Glamour of Zeech that Thomas cast in his phase. Oh, would you look at that? Quite a few 6s. And then these are going to be wounding on 3s. Oh no, only 7. Can't win them all. Nice, 2 dead already. Now it's time for the Gauss Cannon. Heavy 3, hitting on 4s. Oh man, I really want at least one of these shots to actually do some damage, so I'm going to use my single command point to reroll that fail. And oh yes, finally, 1 shot is going to do some damage. Now that is AP -3.
Yeah, nice. So I passed that on a 5-up result.
At least I killed 2 of them. And now we bypass the charge phase straight into the fight phase, and because it's my turn, my opponent gets to choose a unit to fight with first.
Okay, so I get 8 attacks with the Rubric Marines, as I still get 2 attacks each, and 3 from the Sorcerer.
Pretty lucky saving rolls there, so no damage is done to the Annihilation Barge. And now it's time for those 2 little Necrons at the front of my barge to start kicking those Rubric Marines in the face. 3 attacks. No hits. And actually, that's the end of my turn. And at the end of my turn, I score my secondary objective points. Only 1 of Thomas's units is wholly within a board quarter, so that means I score 6 victory points, bringing me to 19.
Okay, so Thousand Suns turn 3. Command phase, I gain a CP, so I'm up to 1. I'm a bit concerned he might win on victory points because he's got really good secondary and they're extremely tough to kill. So I've got to advance the Zangors up, get on both objectives basically, and try and smite him out of there in a couple of turns. So I've advanced the Zangors. I rolled a 4 with +1, so it gives me 11 inches to move. Positioned them so everyone's within 2 inches of each other. You're actually on both objectives, but you're still in coherency as well. Okay, into the psychic phase. I'm going to cast Smite with Aspiring Sorcerer. So I'm going to spend 1 CP to do Malefic Scroll. Instead of being D3, it's a flat 3 mortal wounds.
The barge has 8 wounds, and that'll bring it down to 5.
Psychic phase done. Now onto the shooting phase. I do actually get to shoot the Warp Flame pistol straight into the face of his pilots. 2 shots from the Warp Flame pistol. Nice, 1 wound.
And, I failed that save, so that is down to 4 wounds. I think we're moving on to the fight phase now, and lucky for me, because it's Thomas's turn, I get to go first. A huge 3 attacks coming in, hitting on 6s. 0. Okay, your turn.
Okay, so I'm going to attack with the 4 stave first this time. Nice, 2 hits, 1 wound.
Okay, with -1 AP, this is going to be a 4+ save.
Okay, so I've got 8 attacks coming in from the rubrics. Unlucky, 4 hits and no wounds.
So the start of Necron's turn 4, to be honest, I am on 19 victory points already, but Tzeentch isn't the only one that can see into the future, and I know that Thomas is going to be on 25 victory points at the end of his turn, even if I have an amazing shooting phase and kill all of those Rubric Marines. So unfortunately, it is with a very, very heavy Sandstone heart that I concede this game. There is no way I can win, and Thomas and the Thousand Suns are victorious.
Good game there, Guy. Really appreciate you having me on, and look forward to being in the quarterfinals. Woohoo!
Thanks so much, Thomas. Well, I'm amazed at how close that ended up being, considering I lost 20 of my 23 models in the first turn. If even just a couple of those warriors had survived that barrage and the resulting morale test, I would have been able to use the Lord's Resurrection Orb and bring back the whole squad, and then I'd be hitting the rubrics of 24 shots at -2 AP. Oh well, we can dream. That's 40k though, and anything can happen in small, fast games. That's why I love them. Now if you want to see how Penny and I made the big arena gate backdrop for this tournament, we actually made a video about it. Also, if you want to paint your Necrons like mine, I have a video for that too. This speed painting Sandstone Necron tutorial was literally the first ever Midwinter Minis video. I'll leave a link to those videos in the description, just in case you want to check either of them out. The channel has obviously grown quite a lot since then, and while it started out as my hobby, Midwinter Minis is now my actual job, made possible by our awesome community of supporters on Patreon. And here's a quick shout out to our newest members: Kevin Brown, Matt M, Amy Lofthouse, Freddie Ray, Chris Ayler, Sven Heitland, Gree Manson, Darren Maroney, Adam Fennerty, Connor Schoen, Michael Blackwood, Murphington, Astranicus, Blue Screen, Chris Green, The Beef Chief, Cameron Harvey, Cesar Diaz Sanchez, Pastard, Alejandro S, Thomas Albion, Johnny Wah, Angela M. Miller, Kyle Transu, Kevin Pearson, Willis Scowthorne, Jefferson Star Destroyer, David Maddox, Spleeny Jr., Rekka Bold, Brooks, Martin Elvey, Dana Mitchell, Surfer UK, Robert, Sam Pickford, Katie Vincent, Chris Leo, Christopher Chant, Orabraxis Sideria, Loki Sose, Noximon, and De Orc Dork. Thank you so much for watching. Please like the video to help other people find it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.